I'm Danae Wolf, and I'm passionate about helping big thinking entrepreneurs understand their numbers so they can increase their profits and decrease their stress. So join me each week for an honest convo, jam-packed with tangible advice on all the things needed for a profitable company and a thriving life. Because the truth is, if you don't know what's going on in your bank account, you don't know what's going on in your business. Welcome to the Profit Factor Podcast. Hey, welcome back to the Profit Factor Podcast. You're listening to episode 4. Today, I wanted to switch things up a little bit. I recently spoke at a local event here for the Women's Business Center, and it was called the Pink Experience, and it was for entrepreneurs who are really looking for different ways to scale their business. So there were all types of speakers at the event, and I was fortunate enough to be one of them. So my talk was on how to turn your passion into profits in 6 steps. So I went over everything that I did in my own company here at the Chic CFO, and I share a lot about what worked for me, what didn't work for me, and I did my best to give some really tangible, tactile advice that I hope you guys will really be able to put into good use in your companies. So tune in and you'll be able to hear the speech. I did record it on my phone, so it's not the best audio quality, and I was a little under the weather, so I think you'll hear that in my voice as well. But I think the content is really great, and I hope you guys enjoy it. My name is Danae Wolf. I started with the Women's Business Center back when Jessica was working with it, and it was just First State Community Loan Fund. And I actually started my first business with the loan that I got from them. And make a really long story short, after 1 year in business, I had to go back in and get another loan because I was completely broke. My dad had to co-sign for me. It was a whole very dramatic thing. And I didn't understand how it could be possible that I was broke because I was working 7 days a week, morning, noon, and night. All I did was work. And my dad said to me, well, you need to be working smarter, not harder. I don't care if you're working 7 days a week. What you're doing isn't working. I had a restaurant, and his words to me were, why did I pay for you to go to college so I could watch you put mayo on bread? You can do more. That was literally what he said to me at the closing in the lawyer's office. And I went home that night, and it had never occurred to me that maybe I shouldn't be working in my business. Maybe I should be working on my business. So I started researching how to work on your business, and everything seemed to have to do with the numbers. It was asking me what my food costs were, what my ROI was, all these things that I had no idea what they meant. So I had an accountant, because that's one of the first things they tell you to hire. So I said, I'm just going to schedule a meeting with him. Went to the meeting. I left after 1 hour completely in tears. I had no idea what he was saying to me. It made no sense. I actually left there more confused than when I walked in. So I got on my laptop, and every night I would Google and take every online course that I could. I would watch every YouTube video that I could, and I immersed myself in understanding the accounting foundations of a company. Within 3 years, we paid off $160,000 worth of loans. I was working less and was able to open a new location that I didn't need to take a loan out for, that the first location completely paid for. All because I got in and understood the numbers. So obviously that lit me up and made me really excited about what could happen when you actually understand the numbers. And that's how my company, the Chic CFO, was founded, because I wanted to spread the message and let other people know what could happen if you understand your numbers. So today I want to talk about how you could take yourself from your passion to profits in the first 6 weeks that you're trying to launch your company. So if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. I think we've all heard of this before, but never is it so important as when it comes to business. It's not enough to just say, oh, I'm really passionate about animals, so I'm going to start a dog walking company. There's got to be a plan and a mission behind it. So with a raise of hands, can somebody just start shouting it out? What are some reasons that you guys started your businesses? Why did you start your companies? Passion, solve a problem. What else?
Wanted to make money.
Thank you. That was actually the one that I was looking for. Usually when I ask that question, I get a lot of different passionate answers. I want to help people. I love food. I love to cook. I love to entertain. I love Pinterest, so I started a party planning company. There's always something about the passion, but when we're getting really brutally honest with ourselves, we all started our companies to make money. But your brain said, I want to make money, and your heart led you to your passion. So your passion was the conduit to make the money that you want. But it all really started, the first foundation of why you said, I'm going to put myself through this agony of launching a company, because let's be real, it's a lot of hard work. It was all to make money. And I think that if you really want to make sure that that's what happens, you have to start owning that truth. You need to make sure that you're not telling yourself this lie that you're just here because you want to help people or you're going to change the world. That's great, and I believe all of that, but it's not going to happen if you go broke. So you're actually doing yourself a disservice if you just keep talking about the mission and get lost in it and completely neglect the numbers. That's what keeps the lights on. That's how if you think you really have an idea that could change the world, that could change people's lives, it's going to get nowhere if you don't have any money to get it there. So it's really important that you remember that, because what you focus on, you're going to create more of. So you have to keep numbers on the front burner. And one of the biggest things I hear all the time is people say, well, I'm not good at math. It has nothing to do with math. But one thing to say to that is, how many people in here know how to change the oil in their car? That's shocking. Good for you. That's not the norm, but how many people in here get their oil changed when it needs to be changed? Right. So if we can find somebody who can change the oil in our car, we clearly understand the concept of when something is a priority and it has to get done, but I don't know how to do it, I'm going to outsource it. You have to do the same thing when it comes to anything in your company, that whether it's your marketing, your numbers, anything, the operations that you know is not your strong suit, you're going to have to outsource it. But the first step is understanding that it's a priority. So now that you've established, okay, I'm starting my business because I want to make money. Now you want to say, what really motivates you and what are you really good at? Where are your strengths? What are your assets? And as you're walking through the process of determining where do your passions lie, where do your strengths lie, then you want to actually take the time to say, well, what are the market needs and how can I match them up? A lot of times what I'll find is somebody is really passionate about something, but there's no need for it. There's no market for it. So now they're chasing this dream that's never going to give them the life that they want because they didn't do their market research. Passion is not enough to sustain a company. You have to make sure that you are meeting in the middle and saying, here's my strength and what I can offer to society. Here is what society needs, and we're going to come together and make this happen. You could think that your idea is going to change everyone's life, but if they don't need it or want it, it's not going to work. So it's really important that you take the time and say, hey, is this going to make money? Is this going to have impact? And guess what? If the answer is no, it doesn't mean you need to let it go. It just means it's not a business. It's a hobby. And that's fine. That can happen all the time. But if you're in this room, you're probably not trying to start a hobby. So you want to make sure that, yes, you realize you're focused on making money. Now I'm going to use my passion to make money because otherwise I'm going to be miserable. But I'm also going to make sure that I'm taking that passion and that strength and ensuring there's a market for it. And once that all marries together, you now have the basis of your company. So the next thing you're going to do now is you want to find your ICA. So your ICA is your ideal client avatar. This is the perfect person for your product or service. You guys have probably all experienced that sometimes you're on a sales call and you feel like you are putting it all out there and you're just getting nothing in return. Like you feel like now you're discounting, you're trying so hard, and no matter what, you just can't get this person to sign on the dotted line. And then sometimes you go on a sales call and you're finishing each other's sentences. They sign before you even get off the phone. You didn't even have to meet them face to face. That's your ICA. And a lot of times when people are saying they're closing low, they're doing all these meetings and nobody's signing with them, they can't get any sales, you're not meeting with your ICA. You didn't take the time to investigate and say, who is my ideal client? When I honed in on that, it completely changed the trajectory of my company. And that's how I was able to determine, I am going to take this meeting, I'm not going to take this meeting, because I can already tell you how it's going to play out based on a list of criteria that I now have that identifies my ICA. So the best way for you guys to start figuring out your ICA, if you're lucky enough to already have one, how many of you can think of a client that you have right now that you're like, she is my ICA, he or she? We got to get a lot more of those hands up. We want to make sure that we find that perfect client, and we want to get to know everything about them. So we want to know, is this person the right fit for your product or service? What makes you equipped to serve them? Why are you the best fit for them? And why are they the best fit for you? Now we're going to really dive in and start finding out everything about this ICA. You want to get very micro here, down to what do they look like? What kind of clothes do they wear? What kind of car do they drive? How many kids do they have? Are they married? Are they single? What kind of music do they listen to? What kind of books do they like? What kind of blogs do they read? What podcasts are they listening to? Where do they hang out online? Is your ICA on LinkedIn? Is your ICA on Pinterest? Are they on Facebook? These are all things you need to know so that you're not hanging out in the wrong places. If your ICA is on Facebook and you're spending all of your time in LinkedIn and you don't understand why your content isn't moving the needle, you're in the wrong place. It's not where your ICA hangs out. So you want to make sure that you literally find an ICA and interview them. I just did a round of these emails a couple weeks ago. The people that I know are my ICAs got an email from me with probably about 15 questions. Where are you hanging out online? What kind of education do you have? What kind of car are you driving? How many kids do you have? This is the information you need, because now you're going to hang out where they hang out because you know where they are. You're going to use language they use. Did you ever read something, a bit of copy on a website, and say, I feel like she's talking to me? That's intentional. She's done her research. She knows who her ICA is. She's taken the time to interview them and say, what is your biggest hurdle? What keeps you up at night? The verbiage that they give back to you is how you write your copy for all of your marketing so that it speaks directly to them. And if nobody's buying from you, it's because your message isn't resonating with them. And it doesn't necessarily mean your message is wrong. It means you're putting it in the wrong atmosphere. It's the wrong environment. You're not with your ICA. So before you can design a brand, before you can design a website, color schemes, this is how micro we get. You need to know who this ICA is. So now that we have that stuff established, we need to really dig into the numbers game of the company. So this is a process that you guys really got to be able to take seriously. This is how you're going to determine if this company really is the game changer in your life. Sometimes I'll meet with people and the first thing I always say is, what is the goal? What is the financial goal for this company? Why are you doing this? And I'll get an answer as, well, I want my husband to quit his job. Okay, well, your husband's making X amount of dollars a year. You want to work 30 hours a week. With the product or service you have, when we do the math, you would need 10 of you. So your business plan does not mirror what you're actually trying to accomplish. So we have to break down this entire process. So here's an example. Let's say you tell me, because everything with being an entrepreneur, at least for me, is about lifestyle. There's women in the room. I'm assuming a lot of us are moms. This is so that we can still contribute to our families, contribute to our souls, and still be the moms we want to be. So very rarely do I have people tell me they want to work 40 hours a week, but that's just my ICA. So let's say you're saying, I want to make $100,000 a year, and I want to work 20 hours a week. We'll go through that whole scenario and determine you're going to have to be able to make $96 an hour, which means that whatever your service is, we've got to go through and see what are your costs. Do you have to pay a contractor? Are you doing it all yourself? Are you a solopreneur? But we need to know that we can pump out $96 an hour. If you don't think your service or product is going to get that, you're in the wrong business, or you're in the wrong life, because you're not going to be able to achieve $100,000 at 20 hours a week. But if you don't go through this process, if you don't run through these numbers, you are completely flying blind. So I'll have people who will come to me and say, well, this is the goal. And I'll go back and look at the products and services, but you're not positioned to achieve this in any way. It is completely unrealistic that you're going to be able to achieve that, which is why it's important that this is laid out before you even launch. So now that you have your money settled out and you know what the products and services, whichever your industry you're in, how they have to be priced out, you need to start settling in on your process. If you don't have a process in your business, you don't have a business. I want to be really, really clear on that. There's a difference between buying yourself a job and starting a company. A company is something that has systems and process in place, which means that anyone at any given time can come in and run it. So my husband has no idea what I do. When I launch a new system, I make him go through it. And if he can't do it, I know that my workflow is not outlined correctly, because you have to be micro here. You need to know that if something happened and you were out of commission tomorrow, somebody could take your operations manual and run with it. A job dies with you. A company goes on without you. You only build that when you have your process and your system in place. When I say micro, I really, really mean micro. So let me give you references with mine. When you click into our workflow software, which you guys can, there's Asana, Trello, whatever it is, you log in, it will tell you at Monday at 10 a.m. what task has to be done. When you click into the task, it will give you an infographic document walking you through it, and it will also give you a video tutorial. This way, whether my assistant is better with reading things and that's how they learn, or they'd rather watch a video, it's both there for them. That's how specific you have to get. Because the reality is, if you ever go to scale, you're not going to be able to do that if everything that happens in your business is in here. Again, lives and dies with you. That's not how we build companies. The whole morning's theme has been about being more. You guys are not making these sacrifices for a job, because if that's the case, go get a real job, have a 401k, and retire. That's not why we're in these companies. The point is so that they have longevity. It's so that we can create an exit plan that maybe we do pass this along as a legacy to our family, or we sell it. But you can't sell a job. If somebody's going to buy your company, they want to know, what are the systems and process? If you leave, nobody knows how to do this. Do I think that you should know how to do everything in your company? Within reason, but I don't think you should do everything in your company. But if your workflows are there, you can pop in at any point and figure it out. So now we want to focus on our brand. And I want you to notice how this came way toward the end. I think a lot of times people kind of put this as one of the first things, and I get it. It's the fun part, right? We want to pick our color scheme. We want to pick our logos. We want to design our website. We want to get business cards. That is not the way that you do things. If you have not fine-tuned who your ICA is and what their tastes and dislikes are and how to speak to them, you can't design a brand. If you have not determined what you have to charge because you've gone through that financial pro forma to say this is what I'm going to have to make per hour, you can't design a brand. When I launched the Chic CFO, I had a very beat up laptop. And I said, I'm going to go buy a brand new computer. My husband is like, you are not going to buy a computer because I have no idea if you're ever going to make that money back, because how do you know you're going to get any clients? And I was like, okay, I'll just make it work on the laptop. I operated for over a year like that with a crappy laptop. I didn't even have business cards. I actually still don't have business cards. Somebody asked me for one today. Don't have business cards. And I made a website probably about 6 months in on GoDaddy on my iPad. It took me 3 minutes to make it. Like it was just a template, and it cost me like $99. Now I have a fancy website that I hired out and logos and branding, but I wasn't going to put that kind of investment into it until it made sense, until I knew the wording that needed to be on the website because I knew exactly who I was talking to, until I knew my price point, because that determines your brand. Somebody looks at your brand and they can say, oh, this is a more affordable price point. Oh, this is a more luxurious brand. You're speaking to your ICA in every single thing that you do. So you've got to get out there and do that market research before you just launch a website. I'm in a lot of Facebook groups for accountants, and I'll share this story with you guys really quick. So around the time that I was launching a couple years ago, there was another girl my same age, we just had a lot of similarities, and she was launching as well. She put $20,000 into her company. She did if you do a website and branding package, you're looking at $5,000, $6,000. Like, she did all the professional videos. She went all out. So now I'm stalking her because I'm like, oh my God, I want to be you, but Brad won't let me buy a computer, like blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay, I follow her very closely. We end up talking on DMs and getting close and confiding in each other. At the end of year 1, I had generated 6 figures with a laptop and no business cards and the world's worst website. Like, it looks like my 4-year-old made it. She had done 10 grand. She was generating less than $1,000, and they were all one-offs. She didn't have monthly contracts. And she had actually lost money, because remember I said she put in 20. She was literally in the hole because she put all of her resources. And when I say resources, as an entrepreneur, your 2 biggest resources are time and money. She wasted them all on the end. This is step 5 I'm talking about. She started that with 1. She didn't take the time to do any of that or sort any of it out. That's not how this works. Would you guys just marry someone you just met? No, you're not going to go all in. You test it out. It's the same thing with your business. You have to test it out. Who's the ICA? What are the systems and processes that work for you? You don't know unless you try it out. I think a lot of times there's this misconception that we're going to think on it. People say, I'm going to sleep on it. I'm going to think on it. Clarity doesn't come from thinking. Clarity comes from action. You have to actually get out there and try and be tangible and tactile with it till you can feel your way through to see if something's going to work for you. So now that we have our branding in place, so we've got our colors, our logo stream, we're able to start working on our messaging. Again, this messaging is coming directly from knowing who our ICA is. We know exactly who we are talking to. And let me make this extremely simple to comprehend. When you guys are in a meeting at work, you're probably using a very different vernacular than what you're using when you're at happy hour with your girlfriends, right? The way you talk matters. The way you present yourself matters. And it's who you're going to attract in that moment. So you want to make sure that your copy, which is just the wording of your Facebook ads, your LinkedIn ads, whatever you're running, every blog you write, every word that's written on your website, it's got to be written to attract this ICA. Now, we know about the copy from interviewing them, and we know about where they hang out from interviewing them, hang out online. So now we're able to come up with a marketing plan that is designed to specifically get us in front of our ICA, because we've done our due diligence. So we're not tossing it against the wall to see what's going to happen, because we already spoke to multiple ICAs who say, I'm not on LinkedIn. I never get on LinkedIn, or I live on Pinterest. So now you're able to completely design this marketing plan based on your ICA. So let's say your ICA says that they are on Facebook the majority of the time. Facebook ads work, number 1. If they're not working for you, you're not targeting your ICA. So don't knock them because you don't know who your ICA is. They work. It is proven to work. Take an online course if you want to learn more about it. Rick Mulready's is really good. But if they're not working, you're not targeting your right people. Your Facebook business page is not going to get you a lot of traction. It's not something that Facebook is prioritizing in the news feeds because Facebook wants your advertising dollars. The best way to get around that is to launch a Facebook group. So what do? You scour Facebook and you get into groups with your ideal client. Anytime something comes up that has to do with your industry, you answer the question. You don't promote yourself. You don't promote your service. You simply set yourself up as the expert. I can't tell you how many clients I've gotten from this. It is so easy. Every single entrepreneurial group that I am on, I'm active in. The second somebody asks about money, I answer their question. I don't plug my company. I don't anything. I just answer their question to the best of my ability. Inevitably, I will get a PM from someone who read that and said, hey, I really loved your answer. Could we talk more about that? You now have a consultation booked, and you're now going to invite that person to your Facebook group, which is your private area on the internet where you are stockpiling it just with your ICA. And what you're going to do in that group now is going to sound crazy, but it works. You're going to give away all of your best knowledge for free every day, but you're going to give it out in little snippets because they will pay you for the convenience of it all being organized. So think of everything you know 100 things. You are funneling those 100 things throughout the year. Facebook posts, Facebook lives, all of your content's out there. You're going to have people who are going to take the time, study you for 6 months, and write everything, and they're going to know everything that you sell and that you do. The majority of people, though, are going to pay you to put it all together in your beautiful little service package and wrap it in a pink bow. So it sounds very self-destructive that you would do it for free, but I promise you, it works. Same thing moving on to Instagram. When it comes to Instagram, we don't have groups, but we have video. Video is what's working on Instagram. It's not the scroll, it's not the feed anymore. It's all about the video. This is the best way for you to be able to connect with your ICA anyways. They want to see that you're a real person. This is where we're going to go behind the scenes. So maybe you have all your professional photos, your branding photo shoot. Instagram is the behind the scenes. This is where they're saying, I just dropped my kid off at school and now I'm going to a breakfast meeting. Filming here, that you're listening to different speakers. This is where they see your typical day because the reality is they're going to know if you are their cup of tea or not. It's like you're lifting up the hood of the company and letting them see what's going on behind the scenes. LinkedIn, this is one of the best places where you guys are going to be able to get organic reach. They're not to the point of Instagram and Facebook when it comes to advertising dollars. So when you have something that you're posting on LinkedIn, you don't have to spend the investment of money to get more people to see it. So if your ICA is on LinkedIn, that's actually awesome because it's still a really great place to get an organic reach. If anybody's familiar with Gary Vee, Google him and his thoughts on LinkedIn. He'll take you way down that rabbit hole about how it's the best place right now for organic reach. When we use the word organic, we're simply saying free. You don't have to be able to pay for it. Pinterest. Pinterest is like the largest search engine in the world. People don't actually realize that. It's the #1 way that you can get traffic back to your website. So anything that's a part of your content, and remember when we're talking about our content, we're talking about our free knowledge. All that free tidbits that we're giving out and putting into the world to our ICA, we want to make sure that it lives on the platforms where they are. So if they're on Pinterest, we're going to want to make sure that that's where we're putting it so that they have easy access to it. So to recap the 6 steps that we're going to take before we get our company off the ground. You're going to acknowledge your real why. It's money. Don't forget that. Own the truth. Hold on to it. Don't be embarrassed to say it. Money is not a dirty word. No matter what everybody tells you, the truth is money paid for the chairs you're sitting in, the clothes you're wearing, the hospitals, the roads, the cops, everything in this world is paid for with money. And that's okay. I don't know how somewhere along the way it became such a negative thing. Number 2, we want to identify our ICA. If everyone that you are talking to is telling you no, they are not your ICA. It's not you, it's them. You need to find your ICA and make sure you're getting in front of them. Does your business support the life you want? What is your goal? Do you want to work 50 hours a week, 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week? How much money do you want to make? Is it 6 figures? Is it millions? What are the actual goals? Because then you're going to back that into your service and product offering and make sure that it's realistic. Make sure it can actually happen. Next one, create, document, and implement your system. This is how I take you from having a job to building a company. This is how the company can go on with or without you. This is how you see entrepreneurs on Instagram in the Mediterranean, and yet nothing is changing. Their podcast is still launching. Their blogs are still launching because they have a system in place running it like a well-oiled machine. Number 5, branding that attracts your ICA. Every move you make is dictated by this ICA. You should know everything about them. And before you do anything publicly, you need to say, is this going to resonate well with my ICA? And then number 6, spread the word. Now we're going to take all the information that we have about the ICA. We're going to take that kick-ass brand that we just created that's focused on our ICA, and we're going to spread the word. But we're going to be smart about where we spread the word because we know everything about our ICA, so we know exactly where they are and how to get to them. All right, well, thank you guys.